again, we don't want to brag about anything, but yes, everyone knew 3 months ahead. We didn't have any poll commission there, but we were almost quite close, 240 to 260. The Punjab numbers, we got it 100% accurate for every single party, for Congress, for BJP, for Akali Dal, and the Aam Aadmi Party, the ruling party in Punjab. Every single number, we got it absolutely right. But it's very interesting. Quiro, you're a very well respected, both of you are very well respected. The Main Street, your company is very well respected right across Canada. How do you get it right? Let's hear that, and then we'll come to the numbers.
Yeah, it's not easy. You know, I founded Main Street in 2010, and for the first couple of years, we didn't release polls, right? So 2012 election in Alberta, that all the polls got wrong. We predicted a majority for Alison Redford, and it was correct, but we didn't release numbers. All the polls said it was going to be Wild Rose government. 2013, same thing happened in British Columbia. Everyone thought it was going to be an NDP government, all the public polls. Our polls internally, and we predicted...
I'm so sorry, you're sharing a very interesting thing, but I have to just interrupt for a moment here. I know there's no other channel right now who's even giving any numbers, but very early read for Carolyn Parish. The numbers that we are getting, very early read. It's too early to say even she's getting close to the 1,000 mark. Very close. This is what the news I'm getting from Ymedia newsroom. First one to touch almost the 1,000 mark. It's going to be Carolyn Parish. So maybe you're going to get it right today.
Yeah,
please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And no, that's exciting. I guess I'm looking
your poll
at it
is
now.
bang on. I see that your poll is bang on.
I think it's pretty. I think we're going to be pretty close here. So we'll see. Very early to tell. Yeah, so then in 2014, we started releasing polls right after the Ontario election. The 2015, we predicted the NDP majority in Alberta. We usually, at that time, had very large sample sizes, and we prided ourselves on very, very substantial sample sizes. And then as the years progressed, so we got the 2015 Alberta election correct, the 2015 national election, within a sliver on election night, predicted the majority before anyone else for Trudeau in 2015. And then as we went on, and Main Street is one of the only company that polls every national and provincial election here in Canada.
Okay. Sorry.
We have a history going back to 2014.
Yes, so sorry, let me get that right once again. Main Street is the only company which predicts every national and every provincial election.
Correct. Yeah.
The only one.
Publicly, yes.
Publicly, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
So if you go to any of the aggregators, if you go to any, or you go on Wikipedia and you see, Main Street is the only one that does every single province every year, going back to early 2010s. And we plan to continue that. And on top of that, we do, as you know, that we did the Toronto election last year, the mayoral by-election. We do a lot of the municipal elections. We have always stuck to probability sampling. So meaning random telephone sampling. While most of the polling industry has gone to online panels, the opt-in nature, non-probability, there are very good panels in Canada. I don't want to say that there aren't. But whether here in Canada or in the United States, we have tried to stick as much as possible to traditional probability sampling, random, and then, we've been building the best phone lists in Canada for the last 8 years. Using RDD, which stands for Random Digit Dial. So we have a much better frame to work with than a lot of other polling firms who haven't been doing it as long as we have.
Right. Robert, you're also quite actively involved, so I want to listen it from you as well. But before we do that, once again, I'd like to tell you that yes, it's very early, but it seems like Carolyn Parish, she's quicker from others, from the blogs. She could be the first one to touch the 1,000 votes, and then very closely, Alvin Tedjo is second, 613 votes, or 612 for Deepika. Very close, second and third, and then we have Stephen Dasko at the fourth position. So out of all the candidates, these four are leading, very rightly predicted by Main Street. Robert, it seems like Main Street is going to be right once again tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it is very close between Parrish and Alvin there, but that is very interesting too. I mean, you go back, Alvin has gained significantly in the polling, right? And that you go back a couple polls, we did not have him this close. And I mean, last night our poll was 29-22, so we'll see how that all shakes out. But at the same time, that's a massive gain, and there's been clearly a lot of momentum for Alvin over the last for Tejo over the last couple of weeks. So it's very interesting.
So sorry to interrupt. Right at this moment, this is exactly what the numbers are coming up. Close to 7,000 for Carolyn Parrish, and she's inching towards 8,000 very quickly. And as she moves towards 8,000, so she'll be looks like she could be touching 10,000 for the first one. But you're absolutely right, Robert, and what you guys predicted that yes, Alvin Tejo is second, very close second. You said it right. Last 2 weeks, yeah. Deepika is third, close third one, and then this fourth, Stephen Dasco. Yeah,
I should point out,
please,
here, just because we don't know where these votes are coming from.
Yeah.
That's what makes it difficult. Is we don't know if these are all ward 1, 4, 7, and 9, and nothing has been reported from some of the other wards. We know that right now, as I'm looking at it live, Carolyn Parrish has taken about a 3,000 vote lead over Tejo,
yes,
who's in second, and. Yeah, it looks like the poll's going to end up being right. Total votes in now. What are we approaching? 40,000 total.
Yes.
For some reason, it doesn't say on the website.
53% is the poll reporting.
53% reporting. Okay, so maybe we will be under 100,000 votes total. If this is correct, and do they have any numbers on the Ward 5 race yet?
No, we're still looking at that, but let me tell you that till 8:15, it's 53.73% voting. Ward 5, yes. Natalie, I think...
Natalie Hart has a 100-vote lead in Ward 5. We predicted a close race. Last night, we released a poll showing her with a 2-point lead, very late, small sample. Looks like she's 100 votes is not a big lead, so very early to say how many of the polls have reported in 5. That's not reported yet. So, again, too early to call, but looks like the polls are going to be right.
Yeah. So looks like the polls are going to be right. We will keep you posted right here on Channel Y. So stay tuned with us. So we'll definitely keep you updated with everything. So it's election night right here at Ymedia. So Carolyn Parrish, she is leading right now. Stephen Dasco is fourth. Then we have Alvin Tejo. He's covered quite a ground in this election. He's second, and then Deepika Tamrela, she is at the third position. Quito.
Yeah, I really wish we knew where these votes were coming from and what was still outstanding. Before I did my final analysis for the polls yesterday, I laid out because it was relatively a close four-way race up until very recently, I said, what are the different paths to victory? So for Alvin Tejo, what was going to be important is, very strong turnout in his own ward, in Ward 2. Strong turnout in his, all the other councillors that had endorsed him in those wards, and that he was going to need a lot of young people to turn out to vote. It looks like some of that has happened. Carolyn Parrish obviously was doing very well with senior voters. And same for all the councillors. Deepika in Ward 7, she needed that turnout to be high. Carolyn Parrish needed the turnout in Ward 5 to be high, her old ward. And Stephen Dasco in Ward 1. Ward 1 is we always oversampled it, meaning we had more respondents there, so we actually expected turnout to be highest. But traditionally, historically, between 2014, 2018, and 2022, Ward number 6 is actually the highest turnout. Historically, let's see if that sticks tonight. We don't know where these are coming from, but that's why I continue to expect Carolyn Parrish to win, because in 6, 8, 9, and 10, where the turnout is usually the highest, she does well in all of them.
Robert, at this point, I would like to once again highlight this because we can do this now. The latest poll survey by Main Street, what was that? And then we'll start comparing with the results. Robert, I want you to highlight that.
Yeah, so last survey was Parish at 29% of the vote, Alvin at 22% of the vote, Dipika at 20% of the vote, and Dasco at 17% of the vote. So seemingly similar to that right now, which only have 53%. It hasn't updated recently. About a 3,000 vote lead. So that's again, it depends on exactly what the turnout is. We don't know the full tallies on the site. But one quick thing I will note too is that we did actually contact Elections Mississauga today. They said they will not be releasing ward results until tomorrow. So if you want to, they'll be releasing official ward by ward results tomorrow. So you can take a look at that then. But unfortunately, we don't have that tonight. And we did wish we had that because again, we would really like to know where these numbers are coming from. Are they coming from? Is it? This is the issue we have, right? Because okay, we see their parish has a 3,000 vote lead. Is that coming? Is that a lot of Ward 5? How much of Ward 5 has reported, right? We're looking at the top line number there. It's about 53% of all polls across the city have reported. If 50% of polls in Ward 5 have, that's about right. That means parish definitely still has a lot of room to grow there. But if 70% of Ward 5 has reported, well, maybe you're a little concerned if you're the parish campaign. But conversely, if 30% of Ward 5 has reported, you're looking pretty good right now. So this is where we would really love to have those numbers, but unfortunately, the city of Mississauga is not providing those for us tonight. But again, I do think that parish is favored at this point. This poll does seem to be looking these results seem to be looking very similar to our final poll there. And I think, yeah, when you're looking at this definitely seems to be that the challenger to parish became Alvin Tejo. And let's see how close this gets at the end. But I think I do think parish is favored to win. But let's see how far that momentum in those final weeks carried him.
Looks like she's just a hair over 30% right now. And so, if that holds, that's within the margin of error. Tejo is at, it's around 55,000 total.
Yeah, Tejo is at 14,000 something, and then
that puts him at 25, so he's right there within margin of error, maybe overperforming a little bit on the poll.
Dipika's Demolitor's a tad down, so that makes sense. She's way closer to Dasco than we had her, but again, that's well within margin of error, nothing unexpected from the poll. But yeah, that's the case there, is that this is broadly what we saw when we released that poll last night and we polled over the weekend. And yeah, I mean, we don't know yet. It's still only about half of the respondents in, but half the vote in. But yeah, at this point, parish definitely seems favored.
I wonder if any of this is advance vote yet. We know that Carolyn Parish did much better in the advance poll. When we asked people during the last two surveys, everything that we do after advance polls, when we ask people, how likely are you to vote, one of the options is to say, oh, I already voted in advance. So we know that about 21% of the total population of the people who responded, and we know that number is about 24,000, but that Carolyn Parish was at around 33% of that number in the poll, and that Tejo came in second in the advance voting of what was told. So we'll have to wait and see, but it looks pretty much like Carolyn Parish is pulling away and is going to exceed the polls. So while Alvin Tejo, it looks like a little bit of coalescing did happen towards the end. So just not enough to really make it completely competitive.
Yeah, and once again, we'd like to inform you that yes, Carolyn Parish, she certainly has a lead right now. Alvin Tejo, he's second. Dipika Damrela is third, and Stephen Dasco, he is at the fourth position. Obviously, all four of them were predicted. The four front runners, they were a little bit ahead of all the rest of the candidates. Quita, I'll come to you, and then Robert, you similar question for both of you. It was quite obvious from the last 1 month or maybe even 2 months that these are the four front runners. They're ahead of the rest of the pack. Why was that?
Yes, there's an easy answer to that, and that they're all four councillors. it's being in the public sphere and having that name recognition. In politics, sometimes it's brand recognition, right? It's Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Mountain Dew. If you come out with a new drink and whatever it's called, it might be amazing. It might be the best thing, best new thing, but it's hard to break through to brand recognition. That's why we see early on, the person with the highest name recognition, Carolyn Parrish, was doing the absolute best. Yes, the other candidates that were on current councillors are second through fourth, but it still takes time for them to break through because they're only well known in one part of the city. As they started campaigning, they became better known across the city. So it's hard for people to who don't have a history in politics, who don't have some kind of profile through their professional life, to be able to break through that. That's why these these four front runners were the front runners start to finish.
Yeah, Peter, I'll come to you. Is it challenging? I mean, municipal politics is all about name recognition because you don't have the party brand behind you. So how challenging is it for anyone who's new, who's not been around, to really win the mayor race?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously you need established politicians, right? If you're a former MP, MPP, a well-known councillor, obviously people know you, right? When I talked later about the parish's established base in Ward 5, it's because she's a councillor, right? Obviously you want more votes from the area that you know are people who know who you are, right? So obviously you ideally want the most established base and the most name recognition possible. If not, then you have to just spend that much more money and that much more effort in getting your name out there. You have to spend more on advertising, more on pamphlets that go out to people, more on people knocking doors. You have to spend so much more money and effort, and you have to get that message out there, because if people don't know who you are, you have to get that message out to people, and you have to say, hey, I support this, I don't support this. Versus where other more established candidates, people know what they support. People know that, oh, Parrish, she's been a councillor, she represents this or that, right? This is the challenge. The other end, though, is that if you do have a candidate who doesn't have high name recognition and is able to go out there and say stuff, basically say a platform that people really like, they can catch fire and they can basically capture people's hearts and minds, and they can get the ball rolling and do well. But the problem is that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort to be able to pull that off. So it's generally the people who win these mayoral races. I mean, obviously, the last major ones, Olivia Chow in Toronto, Andrea Horvath in Hamilton, these are basically people who have large name recognitions. Basically, in those two races, universal name recognition pretty much in terms of Hamilton and Toronto. So the more name recognition you get obviously helps you a lot winning these elections.
Right, and yeah, what I've seen over a period of time, if we look at different cities, I mean, whether we have the mayor of Vaughan, whether we have the mayor of Brampton, Patrick Brown, yeah, you want to...
Sorry to interrupt, I just looking at the results now. Carolyn Parrish maintaining about a 3,000 vote lead, 71% of all polls are in, 26,702 for Carolyn Parrish to 23,122 for Alvin Tedjo, 17,029 for Damerla, and 15,104 for Dasco. So it's staying pretty close here. I expect it to widen a little bit now once those advanced polls report.
Yeah.
But the fact that Tedjo is staying within 3,000 votes here, that's a narrower margin than what we expected. We don't know what the remaining 30% of the vote, where it's from. If it's all Ward 5, chances are this is over. If none of Ward 2 has reported yet, then this could get interesting.
Yeah, almost 71.14 of the city's poll are reporting right now. And as you're mentioning, we have the graphics you're seeing on the left of your screen. We have the graphics where you have continuously updated numbers. And yes, you're right about, yeah, go ahead.
No, I wanted to say also we have an update on Ward 5. Natalie Hart now leads with 1,873 votes to 1,421 for Danny Singh in second place. That's a bit wider margin than what we had expected from the poll. We had her winning by about 2%. This is a little bit more than that at this point. It's about 400. Don't know how many polls remain to report in Ward 5. This is 2, 3. It's going to be about total, expect below 8,000 votes, but so it's better than halfway there at this point, but this looks like Natalie Hart's going to hang on.
Yeah, it looks like Natalie Hart could be winning the race, but we still will carry on this discussion. Another point that we want to discuss, because we're keeping a very close eye here on Mississauga polls. You have the numbers, the graphics are there. We'll keep you updating as the numbers keep showing. But you know, why this is Ymedia Political Sensex. So I quickly want to get your viewpoint. I want to take full benefit of what's happening at the federal and the provincial level. I'll start with the provincial first. Why? Today we had an exclusive interview with the finance minister. There was an interesting question that we asked him: is Doug Ford planning to call an early election? We heard that news. So he didn't say no. He didn't say no, but he says, yeah, in any democracy, yes, the ruling government can call the elections. But he didn't say yes either, but he didn't say no. And he mentioned that, yes, that's up to the premier. So he said a few other things as well, but mainly he didn't say no, and he says he actually went on to explain that, why it's the prerogative of the ruling party to call an early election, and then the premier would know this better. This is what the finance minister, this is an exclusive interview on Ymedia. There were lots of other discussions as well about Ontario, but we'll stick to the political Sensex. Quito, your take on this. Could there be an early election? The finance minister didn't say no today.
Do I think there will be? I think there will be. I think it's quite likely at this point that there will be an early election. I think, you know, to me, next spring makes sense. Yeah. I think getting one more budget in, that Doug Ford would want to do that. You know, and there's pros and cons to calling early elections. You know, I look at the two most recent Canadian examples of calling early elections, and Justin Trudeau in 2021, they thought they were going to get the majority. They didn't get there. The one before that I can think of was, God rest his soul, Jim Prentice, former premier of Alberta, called an early election, backfired catastrophically, lost that election to Rachel Notley, very unexpectedly, was way, way ahead in the polls. People didn't like the fact, so it can backfire. There are some political advantages, but also it can backfire. People don't really like people tinkering with democracy that way, and I think sometimes they punish politicians.
Yeah, Robert.
Yeah, so I mean, you talked about your interview today with the finance minister, and what I will say on that is a politician not saying something is news in that case, right? I think that's very clear that them not saying something, that means something. What I will say is that having an early election makes too much sense, in my opinion at least. You obviously, and this is all of our polls, and pretty much every polling firm in Canada is showing this, that Trudeau is very unpopular. He's not particularly popular. In any part of the country particularly, and specifically Ontario, and a lot of people blame Trudeau for a lot of the issues in the country. So if you are, say, the provincial Conservatives, you can go to so obviously the federal government has to have an election before October of next year. If you were to go before then, you can run on a platform saying, hey, we're doing a good job, the problem is the federal government. If you ran the election when it's scheduled, which Ontario would be scheduled in June of 2026, there would theoretically be a different government in Ottawa. There would likely be a Conservative government in Ottawa if the election were held today. So at that point, the argument of it's the issues you're experiencing are not from us, it's from another level of government, that argument kind of doesn't hold as much strength if the election were happening after a new government takes office. So that's why in many cases I think the argument of there being an early election in many ways makes too much sense for there to not, at least for the provincial government to consider that.
Right. And we'd like to update you with the numbers you have on the screen right now. You're watching Channel Y, 29,770, almost close to 30,000 for Caroline Parish right now. Alvin Tadgio, 25,638. So he's still the second position. The margin is still around 4,000 or so. It's not a very big lead. Deepika Damrela now, she's at third with close to 19,000, 18,942. Stephen Dasco, 16,625. So all four of them still very much in the race. Quito.
That's just 75.62 of all city polls remaining. Yeah. Reporting. So that's about 25% still outstanding. We could be coming down to just a very few polls, and that 21%, which is going to be that advance vote. Right now, Caroline Parish is, 30,000 is kind of the magic number that I thought is what it was going to take to win. She's very, very close to that number. Once she crosses 30,000, to me, this race is over. But yeah, we'll see what the advanced vote, as it starts reporting, I think we're going to see that lead increase a little bit more.
Yeah, you wanted to say
a couple of points on that. So as we're watching the results live, we got more votes for all of Mississauga. We did not get more votes in the Ward 5 by-election, which is interesting because that suggests, unless they're counting them at different times, which would be weird, but whatever. But assuming that, that means that those results are not from Ward 5. So that means that basically the lead is expanding and we're not getting votes from Parish's expected stronghold in Ward 5. Additionally, we don't know what is outstanding. It's possible it's the advanced vote, and it's important to note that obviously when we do a poll and we show, oh, okay, Parish is at 29, Tejo's at 22, Dipika 20, etc., we all think, oh, okay, well, that's what the results are. But when you think about it, the advanced vote didn't happen today. It happened a couple of weeks ago, and when you look back a couple of weeks ago, Tejo was not nearly as strong. He was a lot closer back to the other candidates. So it's likely that the advanced vote would not be as strong for Tejo. So therefore, the advanced vote would likely favor Carolyn Parish. That probably makes her a bit of a favorite right now.
Okay, that's good to know. And we'll come back on this once again. We're keeping an eye on this one. Kuto is just predicting as long as you cross the 30,000 mark, it could be curtains for others. It'll be, or at least very challenging for other candidates. But we'll keep an eye. At this point, Carolyn Parish is very close to that 30,000 mark, and I'm sure she'll cross that mark very shortly. But we'll give you an update on that one. The federal politics, you've been doing a lot of surveys as well. We had Pierre Poilievre here in the studio, and I asked him, do you think Justin Trudeau is going to resign? There's a lot of discussion about that, but then he said he has too much ego to resign. He won't do that, but of course he was asking him to resign. But then there's a lot of discussion, the Toronto by-election, that's another thing, but there's a lot of discussion. Will Trudeau hang on till the next election, yes or no? I want to pick up your minds, sir.
Yeah, I think the St. Paul's by-election taking place later this month is going to be a big determining factor of that. June 24th, Toronto St. Paul's,
yeah.
A Liberal stronghold, right? This is Carolyn Bennett's old riding. I almost said Paris.
Different Carolyn.
Different Carolyn, yeah.
Longtime Eric Hoskins, former provincial health minister. My old boss was the MPP there. I know the riding very well. It's going to be a big challenge for them. Leslie Church, who's the Liberal candidate, longtime, very well known, former chief of staff to Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, finance, very smart lady, has been working hard there in the riding for 7 months. I think if anyone can hold it, it will be her. But I think it's going to be an uphill battle. And if St. Paul's falls, that could be the beginning of the end for Trudeau, and I would expect him not to last too much longer, maybe a month. I don't think he lasts the summer if the federal Liberals lose St. Paul's.
Wow, that's very interesting. And there was a recent book that came out, and I did read a few points in that book as well, and this is what that book also mentioned. The member parliaments, they wanted to remain anonymous, but they were mentioning they would want Trudeau to go. And as you were mentioning, the by-election, Toronto by-election is very important. Robert?
Yeah, so kind of adding to that point, I can't speak personally to Trudeau ego or anything like that. But again, Toronto St. Paul, as Keto mentioned, one of the safest seats in the country, one of the safer seats in the country, maybe a top 50 seat for the Liberals, somewhere around there.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. She crossed the magic number. It's now 81% reporting. She had 34,000, 5,000 vote lead. Carolyn Parish has won this election.
A little early, but
look, I believe whatever is left is all advanced vote, and I expect Carolyn Parish to actually win that by a little bit more. So, in my opinion, like I said, that 30,000 vote number was the threshold that was needed to win, and she's crossed it. So, I'll say Alvin Tejo's pretty close to 20, to 30. I think he'll get to 30. He's at 29 and change. So. Let's see.
This is almost, I'm reminded before I come back to you, Robert, but Quito just mentioned something, so I'm just tempted to put up a headline. I think Ymedia newsroom. I remember 2016. Was quite close call between Trump and Hillary Clinton, and many of the major news networks, CNN and others. We were here. It was almost quarter to 2 a.m. in the morning, and no major network in the U.S. or anywhere across the globe would declare who is going to win. We had a meeting outside, and I came inside and I said, you know what, Hillary is not coming out of the rail, and no major network is declaring, let's do this here. And we declared that yes, Donald Trump is the next president of U.S.
Oh, we got more now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry?
we actually just got more results.
All more results, so it should be.
Yeah, that's a 7,000 vote lead, and 92% reporting it's over.
It's in the bag.
Yeah, so we'd like to report, so with Ymedia, let's mention in the headline Main Street as well. So Ymedia Main Street predicts Carolyn Parrish as the next mayor in Mississauga. I think we should, this is the headline, you guys agree?
Yeah, I'm good with it. Yeah, I think this
now
is...
with what's left, I don't know, did we get any more of the Ward 5? Because
we got a tad more Ward 5.
So Natalie Hart,
that's like a lot more Ward 5.
Natalie Hart now has a 600 vote lead. I'd say that one's over too. Natalie Hart has won. It's a 600 vote lead with about...
doesn't say, but...
Well, it looks like about 7,000 total votes there. Last time was 8,000. So I think it's safe to say Natalie Hart is the new Ward 5 councillor for Mississauga.
Yes, and I think we're already putting the news, yes, ahead of any other, I don't think so there is any other news channel that's reporting that now, but I think it's safe to say, we would be saying that yes, Carolyn Parrish has won the race, so compliments. What's your take? Your prediction once again, bingo, bang on, right?
Yeah, look, I think it was, I think things tightened up for us as pollsters. We want to get it right. That's why we stayed in the field the extra mile to the last weekend, and also stayed in the field and reported on Ward 5 because we pride ourselves on being able to get all of them right. Not always. We've gotten a few wrong over the years, but Peel Region, we have a really, really good record, Yadvir, as you know, especially here in Peel Region. We've done by-elections here. We've done federal by-elections, provincial by-elections, mayoral races, federal and provincial riding polls, and we do very, very well in Peel, and happy to see that our result is once again pretty bang on here in Mississauga. And thank you to you and to your viewers for following.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. First of all, like to thank Main Street Research and their entire organization. Amazing work that you do. I'm sure there's a lot of hard work that goes behind the scenes. So thank you to you, Quito. Thank you to you, Robert. And once again, we've removed the word predicting now. They're just telling me that about 5 minutes ago it was predicting, but now I think it's Ymedia Main Street, and then Carolyn Parrish is the new mayor of Mississauga. That's what they just informed me. They've changed the headline. I'm not sure. There are other networks I'm being reported that no other TV network in Canada has reported that. That's fine. We have even removed the predicting, so we are saying this. So they're saying there is no other network, but I'm sure they will report shortly. But I'm very comfortable, confident of removing the word even predicting. So we've declared it. That is the winner. What do you think, Robert?
Well, actually, just a quick point on that. The Elections Mississauga website with their results pipeline, usually they pump those out to the networks. That's not functioning well. If that's my guess, that's probably why other networks haven't called it yet. They're kind of a bit cautious about that. But no, this is what the polling saw. And I think this was kind of expected. I mean, obviously, Tejo came up, did really well there towards the end, and had a lot of momentum. But I think you're seeing the fact that not being as strong, like that momentum in the final weekend or so, did not translate to the early polls, the early polls from week before, right? So the fact that the early vote didn't come in for him, and that was a lot stronger for Parrish, that may have been the deciding factor in this by-election. That may have been it right there.
Yeah, and the interesting part this time would be that yes, this is the mayor-elect for approximately little over 2 years, because we would be having elections once again in, I guess, October 2024, if my memory serves me right. That's 22nd October, if I think that was there. So once again, 2026, we're going to have another election,
Yeah.
October 2026.
And an interesting thing about that, too, is obviously we talk about Hazel McCallion, who was mayor of Mississauga for a very long time. And then, obviously, Crombie won the mayoral race in 2014, won it again in 2018, and again in 22 with pretty large margins. There's a decent chance that Carolyn Parrish might be mayor of Mississauga for quite a while, right? That's the thing. The trend seems that Mississauga likes re-electing their mayors. Maybe maybe she's going to be mayor of Mississauga for quite a while.
Yeah. Quito, I'll come to you as well. The major news network, they're still, I'm getting the following 2 or 3 different at our Ymedia newsroom that say they're still using the word leading. And we earlier said prediction, and we removed prediction. We've declared Carolyn Parrish as the winner. But just I got this message that they're saying, the news network are saying they only use the wording leading. So they're being cautious about that.
Yeah, again, I don't know what sources some of the other outlets have. Unless the entirety of the remaining, what is it, 8% of the vote is all coming from Ward 2, I suppose that is possible. But unless that is the case, then no one can catch Carolyn Parrish. It's 38,000 out of, what's the total? 46 and 70, you're talking about 110,000 votes. This is, there is no amount of vote out there, unless, with that caveat, unless it's all coming from Ward 2, that's outstanding, there's no way she gets caught.
Yeah, that's very difficult. So Carolyn Parrish seems like she's going to be the next mayor of Mississauga. That's what it looks at this point. So we'll keep on posting you with all the latest results. Yeah, you wanted to add something, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, it's just that I think that I'm pretty highly confident. The thing is, I think the other networks are a bit hesitant to it because the results stream from them is not. They're just gonna. I think they're just gonna wait for 100% in to be in and then call it. But no, we're pretty confident Parrish has won. I'm not. And again, even if you're looking at, even if a lot of the results are still left that are in Ward 2, one, if it's early vote, that wouldn't necessarily be as strong for Tejo, and then as well, Parrish is still gonna get some votes, right? So like, if 100% of the votes went to Tejo, sure, fine, maybe, but obviously you're not gonna get that. She's still gonna get some of the vote, and then that just makes that deficit even larger to come back from. So I'm fairly high confident that Parrish will be the next mayor of Mississauga.
Pretty sure that's all the vote for Ward 5 as well. It's over 8,000 reporting. That's more already than what voted in the last municipal election in Ward 5. So I'd expect that that's all we're going to get.
Yeah.
Unless there's some advance vote. CBC is now projecting.
Parrish is one, yeah.
Projecting.
Yeah.
So we said predicting, now they're projecting.
Well, we said it first. We said it first.
Yeah.
We got there first.
Yeah, I think that's the advantage of having Main Street with you here at the studio. So Main Street, we use the word predicting. They're saying projecting, but we use the word predicting. And the other networks, I mean, CB24 is saying leading. But I think instead of leading and predicting now, about a few minutes ago, we already said it. I think it's declared. So with due respect, I think they all fought well. It was a nice, healthy competition. Let me tell you that what I got, the feeling that I got from the debates, because we held the debates here, was done very nicely, very amicably. We had very good viewpoints from everyone. Deepika Damrela, Alvin Tadchio, Stephen Diasco, Brian Crombie, and all other contestants as well. So very healthy discussion that we had for Mississauga. We got very good feedback from our audience. So I think now everyone will concede their defeats and will hear the victory speech very shortly from Carolyn Parrish. Quito.
Yeah, I think it's important to, democracy is sometimes a fragile thing, but when, it's important to remember, during campaigns, especially towards the end, things get nasty on social media and different things. I get wrapped up in those things as well sometimes. But I think it's important to understand that these are people, and everyone that puts their name on a ballot is doing it to try to serve the public. So congratulations to all the candidates. Congratulations to the Mayor-elect Carolyn Parrish and the Councillor-elect Natalie Hart. Congratulations to all the candidates and to all the pollsters who braved yet another difficult municipal election. Thank you as well to you.
Actually, it turns out there were still more votes from Ward 5, actually, and that even put Parrish even further ahead. So, yeah, that's now up to 96.5. So
96.5, and what's the Ward 5?
Yeah, no change. I mean, it's more votes, but no change. Same leads.
Same leads. Okay. So yeah. So I think once again we are here. So more lead for Carolyn Parrish, and we've already put the headline. You can see the graphic there. If you can show the graphic in full screen for a minute. So this is what we're putting. Of course, this is going to be the headline. We are going to print tomorrow. So this will be the headline for tomorrow's news, unless something big comes up. There's nothing new in India. Modi has already announced his cabinet. We'll have all the details of all the cabinet ministers unless there is a major resignation or election call. I think this is going to be the picture, the headline tomorrow. Ymedia and Main Street Research, Carolyn Parrish is the new mayor of Mississauga. So the picture would change. We have our picture here, Carolyn Parrish with the mic ID. So the picture would change, but the only thing is this will be the headline for tomorrow's newspaper that we're sharing with you today itself. So yeah, once again, I must compliment Main Street once again for getting that right. Kuto, compliments to you. Robert, compliments to you and your entire team. It's like magic, you know. How could you get that so right? Because one thing, when you came out with the latest numbers, because earlier you were positioning Deepika Dhamrela very close, the second last poll survey that we did. So Deepika Dhamrela was very close, and their camp really got excited. They were waiting. I got many calls, and they were waiting when I said, "New mainstream guys, you're doing another one." Basically, I said, "Yeah." They got very excited because they thought it might now overtake. But when I saw the new poll numbers from Main Street, I said, "Main Street, here it is." Now the Deepika Dhamrela positioned at third, and Stephen Dasko is fourth. Whereas the Deepika's camp were expecting, they had the momentum, they had the trend going on. Maybe they'll go past, but your numbers are absolutely. And I had a few questions as well when you put on the later. They said no, the camp thought Deepika is going to surpass Caroline, but I said no. These are mainstream numbers. I can't do. I'm just here to broadcast that for everyone. Yeah, but you were absolutely right. I must compliment that, Robert.
Yeah, no, and you're right. Sometimes it is like magic, right? I mean, we had it close. Friday, like early last week, we had it close. And you go back into the field and you get the thing, right? Yeah. Sometimes late things happen in elections. Sometimes vote breaks late, right? Sometimes, like, people say, oh, you know what, yeah, let's just go for a Parrish, right? There's a bit of that, especially in a race like this where there is a lot of undecided voters. A lot of those undecideds will kind of break one way, and a lot of people will sit down with friends and say, oh, yeah, that by-election's coming up soon, who are you voting for, right? So as you get closer and closer, these discussions happen, and people say, yeah, we don't care on the Parrish, let's go vote for her, right? Or, oh, let's go vote for Alvin Tedjo, right? So these things happen as you get closer and closer to Election Day, and that's why, especially in a race like this where a lot of undecideds, you have to be there right to the end.
Yes. Kuto, what do you have to say once again, calling this so rightly, and also on the live show, because everything is going live right now, on a live show before any other major Canadian network has announced here at Ymedia, Main Street Chief, the founder, he's announced it, and because I thought, yeah, with Kuto and Robert, they're both saying this, let's put there, please.
You know, like I said, it's like pollsters' Christmas every election day. So we don't know what's in the package. We just know, okay, what we said. We're always confident in our numbers because we know we're doing the math correctly. It's just sometimes the vagaries of the sample. So seeing that last minute change did make me a little bit nervous. But then I thought what I talked about earlier was that Alvin's message towards the end, that focus on the 2-year tax freeze, that affordability factor, I think gave him that late momentum and the late push that put him into second. So we were nervous about the order. Not just, you don't want to just get the number one right, you want to get the order all correct. So I'm happy that we did that, and that we, I think it's probably a little bit closer than our poll suggested, but I don't know where we're at with advanced votes and that are reporting still to come in. We'll do an analysis probably in the next couple of days. Our sample versus the eventual final results. Looks like Natalie Hart overperformed our poll as well. I think she had some late momentum going in with that. She got the Bonnie Crombie endorsement very, very late.
Yeah.
I think that helped her out. She's still leading by about 600 votes, but that's about 5%. We had her leading by 2, so I think that's. But the margin of error on that one was a lot larger. So I'm happy with how our polls performed tonight, and congratulations to Robert, who does a lot of the hard work.
Yes, Robert, congrats to Quito, congrats to Main Street, and congrats to you. You do a lot of hard work. Please.
Yeah, no, it's nice when this happens, right? I mean, obviously, yes, Parrish did win with 30%, but you're still looking at everybody else in the 20s, right? Not a huge gap, right? This is sometimes when you see an election result and someone's at 60%, someone's at 30%, right? Huge variance, right? Very easy to tell that apart. Yep, that person's definitely winning, right? But when you're at here and they're so close together, there's like razor thin margins here, and every single point, every single half point matters really in those cases. And yeah, when you do it right, you say, yeah, good day. Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, and here we have a message. If we could show that on the full screen for you. If we can show the message on full screen, we'll show that message for you. Natalie, message from Natalie. She's saying congrats to Carolyn Parrish on our victory. So we started hearing some compliments, some congrats from different candidates as well. We'll come back to that, but before we call it a wrap, I'm just tempted to ask 2 important questions, because Main Street has expanded very well in US. I'm not going to ask who do you pick as a winner, but just a minute each on the US elections, what Main Street is doing there, and how do you see the US elections. We'll take you through till the first week of November. It's going to be very interesting race this time once again as far as US elections is concerned. And Main Street, they are doing a lot of work there in US as well. Quito.
Yeah, we started polling last year with Florida Atlantic University, not a very well-known university, but the great group of folks down there. We're doing a combination of not just national polls, right? A lot of people follow the national polls. Now we're going to be doing them twice a month. Heading into September, we're going to increase to once a week, and then going into dailies from mid-September through to Election Day, just like what we do in Canada, daily tracking. And right now, we have a very, very close race at the national level. We just released our Midwest polls, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, all very slight leads for Joe Biden. Our latest Florida poll that we were just looking at, it's not even public yet. I can't say the number because it's not public, but it's now showing a tightening race as well, where we had Donald Trump leading by almost double digits just a couple months ago. So post the convictions of Donald Trump, there's some really interesting dynamics happening there. The swing states now appear to be moving in Joe Biden's direction. So almost the national vote doesn't almost doesn't matter. Just like here in Canada, it's number of seats. In the U.S., it's electoral college. And I think Robert can probably tell you a little bit better in terms of what our current model says about electoral college. Robert, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're obviously developing a model for the U.S. as well. We've had models in the past for Canada, and we had most recently in the 2021 federal election, we had a Canadian model. We're working on a U.S. one for this one as well. There's a lot that goes into the U.S. modeling. Obviously, you have to. In Canada, we're able to project down results in each seat from just a simple national poll. But in the U.S., obviously, you have all these different states, and generally, states move together in groups, but not all the time. Sometimes individual states do a weird random thing, and then they do something else. So the U.S. is obviously very tricky to poll. But what I will say is that the race has fundamentally changed. I mean, basically, we polled right after Super Tuesday in March, when basically Donald Trump's only rival, Nikki Haley, dropped out of the race. Basically, it was at that point it was Trump versus Biden, and it was actually funny because we polled that, and like half the people were like, "It's not going to be Trump versus Biden in November," and we're like, "What? It is." But people were like, "No, it's not going to be that, right?" And since then, it basically in that poll, it was Trump was leading Biden by 4 points nationally. Since then, we're now up to a Biden +2 nationally. And that was our most recent national. We haven't pulled it. That was pre-Trump being found guilty in the state of New York. Obviously, we're going to be pulling it later. But when you look at our results in the Midwest, in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, it points generally to about a Biden 3-4 national lead, right? A similar environment to 2020. And a lot of people have been saying, oh, Biden's losing, he doesn't have a chance. It's like, well, he keeps coming back slowly and slowly, right? And obviously, later this month, in just a few weeks, there's going to be the U.S. presidential debate. That's June 27th. I think that's going to be a very important point to this. And basically, since we've been polling basically from Super Tuesday now, every single poll we see more and more Democrats getting behind Joe Biden. I mean, obviously people expect Democrats to vote for Biden, but I think there's a lot of disaffected Democrats that are like, you know, I don't really like him. He's okay, but he's not great. They would have rather voted for someone else. But as we get closer and closer to November, and as Trump becomes a more and more president, as people realize it's going to be Trump versus Biden, more people are like, yeah, I'm going to vote for Biden, right? So basically, we're basically just seeing a repeat of 2020 at this point. We're slowly edging back to that Biden plus about 4 or 5 national lead he had in 2020. And it's fascinating to see this in real time. But let's see where this ends up in November. I suspect we're probably going to end up somewhere near 2020. And the thing is, even in 2020, right, Biden only won those key swing states of like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, only won them by a couple of points, right? A couple votes change either way. Trump could have easily been president, even in a Biden plus 4 or 5 national environment of 2020. So nothing is determined yet. The U.S., it's always going to be a coin flip, and we'll see how that coin flips in November.
Yeah. And before we finalize everything, I also wanted to tell you that, yes, there are elections in BC. Things are gearing up. Last week, our team was there. We heard a lot of things very active there in British Columbia. So as far as the elections in BC, once again, Main Street is going to lead. And we're going to give you very specific ridings as well. I know there's a lot of interest in those specific ridings as well, but we'll give you updates as we did for the region of the Peel here, national, provincial level. But now in BC elections again, we're going to give you a lot of stuff from there as well. Quito?
Yeah, the BC election is really turning into a very fascinating race. We had caught the rise of the BC Conservatives last year. Everybody called us crazy. We did it again early this year, sort of in the lead up to the fall election, and had the Conservatives very, very close. We even had one poll where they were leading, and sure enough, all the other polls eventually caught up, and now everybody's showing the same thing. The BC United way back, Kevin Falcon is going to get wiped out, and it's a neck and neck race now between the BC NDP and the BC Conservatives, and it's going to come down to that Vancouver area. We talked about this recently about the fact that it's not Vancouver, but it's the census metropolitan Vancouver, Richmond, Surrey. Those are the places, those are the seats that are going to be the really competitive ones that are going to determine who forms government in the next election. Those are the ones we're going to be polling for Ymedia.
Yeah, that's good. Very interesting. Peter, your final take on BC elections, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, no, BC is fascinating, right? Very, very rarely do you see something where it's one party is basically nothing, right? Handful of votes, and they rise up to be the opposition party, right? And also very rarely do you see a party that's been the opposition party in BC for decades, right? Just a couple elections ago, they formed government. All of a sudden, they're being completely wiped out by this insurgent third party, the BC Conservatives. And part of that's because of the name change, which was questionable, but lots of factors going into that. And it's just absolutely fascinating to see this meteoric rise of this Conservative Party in BC, and the question is just how far they can go, right? I think in some cases when you see parties massively surge, and you see this in kind of elections all over the world, they find a way to get it done. They find a way to win, right? And I mean, we're not calling BC yet. Obviously, we called Mississauga tonight. We'll pass on BC for now, but they find ways to get there. These insurgent parties, like you go back to France with Emmanuel Macron and his party eventually surging and winning. You see this all over the world. These insurgent parties, they find a way to get there. And if people really want change, which it seems like the BC electorate does, I kind of think the Conservatives might get there. We'll know in October, but I think they're going to get very close, and maybe they might pull this off.
Yeah. So here again, we'll definitely show you live footage very shortly from what Carolyn Parish has to say. Very shortly, we're going to show that. But we are going to finish this show. But once again, 30 seconds for both of you. Quito, compliments to you. Main Street Research once again. Robert, thank you. Main Street Research did it once again, as he was telling at the start of the show. Unwrapping the gift, but perfect Christmas present for you in the month of June. So thank you so much. The big news from Ymedia Newsroom and Main Street is Carolyn Parish is the next mayor of Mississauga. This is big breaking news that we are sharing with you. We'll carry on with further details, but before we wrap it up, Quito, final.
Yeah, it looks like we've gotten even more vote now. Carolyn Parish has, like I said, it looks like this is advanced vote reporting now, and she's opened up the lead to almost 9,000 votes, and it's 98% reporting. I believe that that's all of it for Ward 5, so looks like Natalie's won by about 600 votes, which would be in around 5%, or maybe a little bit more than 5%. So I think, yeah, it was a very good night for the pollsters, and very good night for Mississauga. You now have a new councillor, a new mayor. The city business can go on, and very soon.
Yeah, sure. The city business will go on very soon. Robert, thank you so much. I've just got this message that now the other networks are also reporting victory or win. Now they've started using the word victory or win. Just about a minute or so ago. That's what I'm getting the message now, but I think we already predicted that, and we're almost wrapping up the show, and we'll take you live to all the different candidates. But before we take a very short break and bring on the candidates, and we want to call it a wrap here. But thank you so much. Robert, your final comments.
Yeah, I mean, this is democracy in action, right? People went out, had their say, and turnout was actually pretty high. I mean, you're looking at 70,000 among Parish and Tejo alone. Relatively high turnout, a bit higher turnout than I expected for a by-election in June, right? It shows that people really want to get out there and they want to have their say, and they picked Carolyn Parish over Alvin Tejo, and that's important. And we'll have to see how that plays out, and we'll have to see if I'd assume Carolyn Parish will run for re-election in 2026. Let's see how that goes. Will Alvin challenge her again? Would someone else challenge her? We don't know. We'll have to wait until 2026 to see.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, and these were my initial thoughts too. As I was listening to your numbers, I thought so too, that yes, there'll be a relatively high turnout, and I'll attribute that to the fact that there were at least 4 major frontrunners. And I got a lot of calls. The community was very activated. I've never seen Nav Bhatia. He was here for his book launch just a couple of weeks ago. I've never seen him ever. Nav Bhatia, the super fan, he's a non-political guy. He wants to stay away from the politics. But this is the first time he was here for another reason. He just presented me a book. We had an interview with him. But first time in all these years I've seen Nav Bhatia, he was supporting Carolyn Parish, and he said it, very openly, that I am supporting Carolyn Parish. So, and there were others all very active this morning. I've got a few calls. Some were supporting Tipika, Alvin Tedshu, Carolyn Parish. I got another call, community's big fundraiser guy. He said, we've done it, and I think Carolyn is going to win. So a lot of interest this time. It's very rare that I see, yes, there was interest all the time in the last 10, 20 years, whether it's the federal politics, provincial, but in Mississauga, there was a lot of interest this time. So we're showing you live pictures, but before we would like to once again thank all of you for joining us today. And we're going to start discussing the Indian elections. They just announced the cabinet today, so we'll be talking about who got all those cabinet berths. Around 72 people got the cabinet berths. But after a short break, we'll start discussing full analysis coming your way about India, why media political Sensex it carries on, who got which portfolio, how's that relevant, complete analysis coming your way right after this short break. Guido, thank you so much. Robert, thank you so much for being on the show. Stay tuned with Ymedia. Thank you.
Hi, this is Priyanka Chopra and you're watching Channel Y.
The biggest South Asian media group, Ymedia.